Attention, everyone. This is an emergency broadcast. The unpleasant noise you are about to hear coming from your radio is not a mistake. Please do not turn off your radio, but turn up the volume on your receiver as high as it can go so that you can make the sound we broadcast as loud as possible.
Positively Horrid.
We are a horror movie podcast with a morbid affection for the macabre.
I am always your nostalgia-filled slasher,
Okay.
Will Liam, and joined by me always, moral babysitter,
Oh yeah, that's me. I guess I am the moral babysitter.
Amanda Lane Olsen.
Thank you. I'm not as moral a babysitter as I seem like I could be. I actually, back when my sister and I were babysitting 5 children in the same night, we played hide and seek, and I hid in the closet, and they couldn't find me for like half an hour, and they were getting really, really scared because they couldn't find me, even though they looked in the closet 3 times. I was hidden behind some coats.
Well, you just got killed. Congratulate you, ruined it.
Yeah, well.
Now Michael Myers is gonna get you. He's gonna get you.
I mean,
He's gonna get you.
I hope not. I was actually a very good babysitter, and I did come out when my sister was very scared.
Well, this evening's movie is the 1978 classic,
Halloween. So this is the first time that both Will and I have seen this Halloween. Last week, we saw the 2018 Halloween, and boy howdy was it amazing.
Yes, it was very good. And we decided to make that the first Halloween that we've ever seen, aside from chunks I've seen of some of the other not-so-good ones.
I haven't seen, like, any of it at all. I know some of the tropes that have been born out of Halloween becoming a classic, but other than that, I really had not had any experience with the Halloween series.
So then we decided to go back and watch the original to compare them. I do kind of wish we had seen the... Like, I like what we did. I think it was the right thing to do, but I do kind of wish I might go watch the new one again.
I definitely want to see the new one again now that I've seen the original.
Just what they played off of and what they... Because it is one of my favorite genres of movie, or not genre, but like a type of movie that I call the sequel remake, which is a Escape from LA is my go-to example, where it is the same movie as Escape from New York, like beat for beat, to the point where characters in the movie are like, you know this all happened already, right? But it is technically a sequel. And this movie was kind of... It wasn't quite the same.
It was similar, though.
So
because
similar,
you could tell, looking back, when we were watching the original, we were like, oh, hey, this is definitely a moment that occurred in the 2018 version. And even so much as some of the shots and like the composition of those shots were very similar, and the personalities of the various characters were similar, and overall I loved it so much, and I appreciate the sequel so much more now, having seen the original.
And so this movie opens up with what we assumed in the the remake was the original scene they show, which was.
We were correct in that.
It's little Mike Myers being babysat by his sister, who then goes up, leaves him alone to go bone zone the boyfriend. Mm-hmm. And that, I guess, is enough to set. They don't like. He's just a little monster.
He's a little monster kid who does not appreciate bad babysitting styles, and babysitters who leave their children unattended to go and bone their boyfriends.
So he goes up. Finds her in her underwear, topless, combing her hair, as spoken about in the last one, and then
stabs her a bunch.
Yeah, stabs her a bunch in the 70s classic psychosexual murder of like a woman dying, but also just kind of like sprawled out.
Oh, look at this naked body.
It was a very weird.
It was weird. But it does set up this psyche for Mike Myers, the entire Michael Myers. He's not the actor who was in Austin Powers. He's Michael Myers. He's different.
We don't know that. He wears a mask the whole time.
That's a really, really weird thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then he's just goes outside, and his parents are there, and he's got a bloody knife. And I get that they were just zooming away because they're like, that's the beginning of the movie, and they're just slowly zooming away. But the parent actors don't do anything. They just stand there staring at their bloody knifed child for a solid minute.
Yep.
And like, you are the worst parents. Like, don't do anything, I guess. Just
don't call an ambulance for the daughter. Don't, like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah, they do say, what are you doing, like 8 times.
Michael!
And then cut to classic music and pumpkin.
I loved that pumpkin because the pumpkin in the sequel, it was carved the exact same way.
Yeah.
It was the same pumpkin. So where the original had just like this flickering jack-o'-lantern with this really spooky face and the nose that looked like a knife with the line that went to the mouth.
Yeah.
It was the exact same pumpkin in the sequel, except it was coming back up from rotting.
Yeah,
which
cool.
is a really, really neat little, like, oh, this franchise was dead and now we are bringing it back to life in a really neat way. And I liked that a lot.
I have no nostalgia for the Halloween series, obviously. This is the first time I've watched the movie, but that opening was solid.
It really was.
Just simplistic, but creepy. The music that changes the tempo so you can't
God,
get used to it.
I hated it. I mean, it did exactly what it was supposed to do, but the fact that the tempo kept changing, like, when I'm listening to music of any kind, whether it's horror movie soundtrack or whatever, I'm, like, keeping track of the beat in my head as I go. And I just could not stay on top of this one, and it just made me so anxious the entire time because I was like, this keeps changing on me, which was the perfect physical response that it should have created.
Because that's also John Carpenter's music, I believe. And one day we'll do research for this podcast, but
someday
I think that falls under. Eventually, we'll talk about other horror movies that choose audio cues that are intended to be unsettling at a base animal level. And
yes,
I'm betting that John Carpenter's choice to do that was one of those.
That
was a very 70s and 80s horror movie move, is to, like, exorcism, we'll put bee noises, like, subtly into the soundtrack to make people, like, their animal brains afraid.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if it works, but that's such a cool, like,
it's a really
choice.
Neat trick to use, because all of the conventions of the horror genre are specifically to create a psychological and a physical reaction in the viewer. And that's why I love it so much, is because it is all psychology. It's great. I love it.
So then we go to Loomis and Nurse
Joy.
Nurse Body Count, Nurse Joy, in a car. They're there to pick up Michael Myers to take him to trial, I think. No, that doesn't make sense. I think it's like a trial
to like court. It's probably like a parole thing.
Yeah, because they're definitely taking him to trial.
They're taking him to court
because he's gonna. Loomis's plan is just to drug him up so he doesn't do anything, which is. We're gonna talk about this a lot because obviously, this is a comparison to the new movie, but Loomis is like. This is this is a monster. Look, yes, this is a child that killed his sister with a knife very brutally. And then just hasn't talked for
15 years at this point. Yeah.
For Loomis is like calling it an and calling it pure evil and
it seems
a little unjustified.
It is entirely unjustified, and I think that the fact that his doctor is treating him this way has definitely had an effect on his psyche.
Yeah, maybe they don't really get into that.
And turned him into the monster that Loomis has said that he is, probably. Because, I mean,
that's an interesting thought.
He is 6 years old when they take him in.
Because the movie never doubts Loomis. The movie clearly wants us to be on the side of Loomis. But yeah, that's an interesting, he's
only 6 when they take him into custody. And he's been there for 15 years.
And a murder is horrible, but, I don't know, it just doesn't justify the,
like, you
This
are
is
a monster, pure
evil.
Yeah, right? I mean, because that, at that point in time, that is the first and only murder that Michael Myers has committed, is the one of his sister. I think it's really interesting that he spent his entirety of his formative years locked up, silent, being told that he is an evil monster whose basest instinct is to kill. Mm-hmm. So even if he wasn't before, he sure is now.
Yeah. And obviously some of it's just the movie trying to, like, pad its monster for us. But
yes. But I think it definitely has in-world effects.
To be fair, like, the power goes out, prisoners break out, and Loomis is like, oh shit, pulls his doctor gun.
His doctor gun.
And goes off to just fucking shoot Michael Myers, I think. And Michael Myers, in his patient scrubs, or his like little gown, one jumps on the back of the station wagon with nurse body count in it to the classic 70s jumping sound effect.
Yep.
To show you that it's a super jump.
It is a super jump.
It's like a springy. And then smashes
the car window in.
Yeah.
With one hand.
It was just it was very weird because it was kind of a silly scene.
It was a little silly. But it was still that thing that was like, before he had his like signature look to him, like, you never really saw his face.
Which I also...
But you could tell, like, this is a young man.
Yeah. I think we were cheated. We watched this on AMC.
Yes.
I think we were cheated a scene in the hardware store because
Were we?
I kept thinking the whole time, and we'll get to this, but there was there's a vague mention of the robbery taking like knives in a mask.
Yeah.
And that's it. And I was like, I'm surprised and maybe it's just, that nostalgia thing where the mask matters later, but I was like, I wish there had been something of him finding it and being like, ooh, this is a good face for me.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, I saw like a screenshot from the movie and it's him holding the mask and I was like, oh, I think they cut out a very important scene. I could be wrong.
I wouldn't be surprised, especially if it was like a graphic scene, because I
don't think it was I mean, him with the mask, but
they must have had a reason to cut it.
Maybe dummies didn't think it was important. Or maybe it's like a added scene or like a director's... I don't know. Or the screen... I don't know. So, clearly we should research.
Yeah.
But,
and stop watching things on demand and watch them for realsies.
Watch real movies. So, yeah, he's... I don't think he kills the nurse. She gets out of the car. And then...
He definitely tries to kill the nurse, but she rolls out of the car.
She's not the part of the 5 or 4. It's 5 total, and it's 4 after he escapes. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so she's not part of the 4-person death toll.
Yes.
So he steals the car and drives off, which was very... He doesn't drive in the remake, right?
I don't think so. I mean,
I know he launches a car, but I think he put the dead body's foot on the gas.
I mean, he's got to get from the gas station to...
Yeah, that's true.
Somehow.
But they never show it.
Okay.
And that's part of the, like, that modern monster...
Also, where the hell did he learn how to drive? He's been in prison since he was 6.
I mean, it's a standard interface. I don't know. He shouldn't know.
I don't know. He's like, it doesn't... I don't care.
Maybe he read a book about it.
But it doesn't make sense.
But yeah, it was so weird to see him, and this is something else that I will talk about a lot, to see him drive, to see him do a human
everyday things.
Which is something modern monsters don't do anymore. I mean, like, slashers might, but like, which I guess he's technically a slasher.
He is a slasher.
He's nowadays...
But he's like a subhuman
Yeah, he's
slasher.
like a monster slasher, like a Jason Voorhees almost. But in this, yeah, he drove off.
Yep.
And then we, I believe, cut to... Laurie.
Yep. Laurie is there with her parents. She has to drop off a key for her father, who's a realtor, over at
scene from the remake or the new one.
Over at the old Myers house.
Mm-hmm.
And she walks down, runs into her friends on the way to school.
Yep.
Or does she runs into the...
Well, first she runs into the kid that
she babysits.
And he's the one that's like, don't go to the Myers house, it's haunted. I think so.
Tommy.
And she drops it off at the Myers house. I think Mike's in there. He sees her. He's immediately becomes obsessed with this girl that I guess reminds him of his sister.
Yeah, because, she's a sexy babysitter, I guess.
Well, she's the opposite. She's a
good
moral
babysitter. Yeah, she is a moral babysitter who is a virgin.
Yeah, she's a virgin. She wears like a long skirt. She's like doesn't dress as quote unquote sexy as her friends. Like this movie makes the classic 70s like judgment of I think I call them sinful teenagers.
Yeah.
Which is not our opinion, but it's clearly
I mean, that's definitely how the
movie wants us to.
Yeah, and it's how the genre has developed, and that's like we've said before, like the cabin in the woods thing with the immoral girl who wants to have sex, and then the virgin who's the final girl at the end and gets away thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
then he becomes obsessed, and he has a car, and he starts following her around in his jumpsuit, which is another very human, like he's stalking her like a creepy boy, not...
He stalks her literally all day.
Yeah.
And there's a scene where she's
at school.
And he is across the street, but like looking through the window at her.
Which Laurie later does.
Later does the exact same thing to her granddaughter. Yeah. But it's not as... I mean, it's a little creepy then, but it's one of those things where it's like, I didn't get as much of a bad feeling about it when Laurie did it.
Yeah, well, because she's not a monster. She's dangerous, but she's not a monster.
But I think it's interesting that in the sequel, that Laurie takes the place of Michael Myers in that
a couple
moment.
Of scenes.
Yeah.
This might not be as... in chronological order as some of the other ones, but Loomis is tracking Michael. He finds a car that was off on the side of the road, and then he finds a dead body. And there's a mechanic who
has been stripped.
Yeah, he stole his jumpsuit because Mike loves a nice jumpsuit.
Yes, he does.
It's a great murdering outfit.
He loves to specifically murder mechanics for their jumpsuits.
Yeah, that's sure, he is the babysitter killer.
He's also the mechanic killer.
Yeah, he loves killing them. Yeah, so that's where he gets his iconic jumpsuit. Now iconic. I mean, I guess at the time it was like, well, I bet that's a creepy look, like jumpsuit with the popped collar. He's rocking a popped collar. He is. I have a question.
Okay.
And maybe this is just me. The original Mike Myers being a young, sleek man in the jumpsuit, and I have like an aesthetic for like 50s kind of stuff.
Uh-huh.
Is he kind of sexy?
Not with that face.
No, face aside, like, I don't know, he kind of, like...
I mean...
He's a big hulking monster in the new one. But in this one, he's kind of
like
a sexy young man. I don't know, I thought he was kind of attractive.
I did not feel that way.
I was just like,
I think that's just you.
Maybe. I'm bringing something. But...
I mean, he was, like, lithe, but I wouldn't call it attractive because he's a fucking creepo monster. Like, regardless of the killing part, he did stalk a girl for an entire...
not his action.
I know.
Purely
but, like,
on...
I cannot separate that because of my experiences as a woman. I cannot separate those actions from his appearance.
I don't know. I think it's after this. Again, we'll be a little out of order. Like, Loomis goes to the grave, which I don't think was in the remake. I know that's a scene I saw in one of the sequels from before.
Yeah.
Where Mike goes to the grave again and picks up just steals a gravestone.
Yeah, but the gravestone for his sister is gone.
Yeah.
It has disappeared.
The little Mikey or Tommy is at school carrying a giant pumpkin. There's no shortage of giant pumpkins in this town.
So many giant pumpkins in this Illinois town?
Illinois, I think. Or Indiana, some middle of the...
I'm pretty sure it was Illinois. Regardless. Podunk town, lots of giant pumpkins.
And so the kids start saying the boogeyman's gonna get ya, he's gonna get ya, which, I know I said this when we watched it, I have been listening to White Zombie's Boogeyman since I was like 16. I love that song, and the opening is that soundbite. Mm-hmm. I never knew where that was from, so when I heard it, I was like, what?
Oh, it makes sense now!
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was just a cool moment. Mike's there, he sees this kid get bullied, which... I think is something I want to talk about later when we get further into the movie.
Yeah.
But that sets Tommy up to be obsessed with
the boogeyman,
which is something we talk about. We're like, I bet that's an obsession from the original because they talk about the boogeyman a little bit in the remake.
They talk about the boogeyman a decent amount in the remake sequel.
And a lot of it's just like a lot of teenage exposition. Mm-hmm. There's parties. There's plans to everybody's babysitting, but also wants to bone down.
Yep. and Laurie's the only one who doesn't have a fella. But she kind of likes this guy, and her friend's like, oh, maybe you should say something to him, see if he wants to go to homecoming with you, me. And she's like, no, don't, it'll be the worst, in true teenage fashion. And then while they're on the car ride, where were they?
They were smoking pot.
They were, yes.
That's when they drive by the one girl's dad is the sheriff.
Yes.
And they're at the hardware store, and that's when he's
and that's when they're
bunch of punk kids stealing punk kid stuff, ropes, knives, horror masks. Punk kid stuff.
Just punk kid stuff.
Those stabby teenagers.
Not like murder things.
Yeah. I also thought it was weird to see... Mike Myers so he's 21.
He's 21.
Figured out, and these kids are like 18ish.
Yeah.
It's weird that he's age appropriate.
Yeah.
Not but you know what I mean, close to their age.
He is their age. Yeah.
I don't know. That was just interesting because again, normally he's this ageless hulking monster versus almost a teenager, and he's still driving around being a weird stocky creepo. Human. He actually drives past them in the background of that scene, and I was like, he's right there! He's right there! Oh my god, he's right there! And, yeah.
And
that, after the kids, Laurie and her friend pull away, Loomis finds the sheriff, and Loomis is like, this is Michael Myers, and he's like, no. The sheriff doesn't believe him, but he's like, just...
trust me on this one.
And so they go to the Myers house, and they find what I think is the second murder
it's
of...
the worst!
The movie, a dead dog.
A dead dog!
And Loomis is like...
He's eating the dog.
We've talked on the show. My lack of fear of a lot of horror movie monsters is because I can't help but imagine what they're doing in between their killing. How they're spending their time. This movie shows it, and that makes it scarier for me.
It does.
It's not like, well, how's Mike Myers eat? I bet he has a granola bar. No. He killed
ate
a dog
and
he's just eating its raw flesh. I love those
It's
details.
so gross. And it made me so sad.
It is the dog murders of the... In fact, it should be Michael Myers, the dog murders.
Yes.
I don't care about the teenagers, but he kills another dog later on. We'll get to. I wrote that he hates babysitters and people on the phone.
That's fair.
Because he loves murdering people on the phone.
Yes, he does love murdering people on the phone.
Because the first, I think... So the... What was the word Cabin in the Woods uses that I like the best? The harlot friend. The most harlot friend.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not quote unquote. You could have all the sex you want. I don't give a shit. But horror movie.
The cheerleader friend.
Trope. Yeah, but she's the I think the most. She's the one that.
The one with the dark hair, the one with the light hair.
No, the dark-haired one that ditches her kid with Tommy.
That's right.
Because she wants her boyfriend to come over to bone down, and she also gets oil or butter or whatever on her pants.
On her whole outfit. She's trying to make popcorn for the kid.
She just takes her pants off and spends the rest of the movie pantsless.
Yeah.
Just wandering around pantsless.
Well, I mean, she completely disrobes with Michael Myers watching through the window.
That's true, yeah. So he straight up sees that.
And then she puts on, the dad's, oversized shirt and just wears that the entire rest of the movie.
And I think that was supposed to be... Because he's been stalking Laurie... But his murders are bad babysitters or sinful quote unquote teenagers. Mm-hmm. So yeah, he sees her get undressed, which is alright. You're not allowed to have a body, which I think is a very classic serial. Although Michael's not a serial killer, I had to talk with another true crime friend of mine. That's he's a spree killer, not a serial killer.
That's fair.
So yeah, I think that's when he decides that this girl has to die. She goes back. Her boyfriend's
Bob.
Jason Bob. I thought I wrote it down. But he's the luckiest dude because he never shows up in the movie.
He does never show up in the movie.
He just misses out on all the death.
And all the boning.
Yeah, but...
but also all the death.
That's the price you pay, apparently.
Exactly.
So she's alone. She goes to her car because she's going to drive over, still pantsless, to her boyfriend to bone down. Mm-hmm. Mike Myers' classic Halloween prank that they mentioned earlier, soaps her car window. Which I was like, come on, dude. But I guess that was his beginning. He's like, I'm going to get on theme. This is my deal. I'll do a better job later with the murders, but for now, soapy window. And she's like, somebody soaped my window. And then he strangles her.
From the back of the car.
Yes, which was another thing that, he's so classic with the knife that when he strangled or did other killings in the sequel that we watched,
we were like,
oh, that's so weird
that's
not
weird.
to see him stab.
Yeah.
He only stabs a couple, like... Ooh, there's spooky thunder.
Thematic. He doesn't stab very often.
Yeah,
only in particular cases.
Yeah, I think there's less stabbings than there are other types of murder for him. Which is just interesting.
He does do a lot of strangulation.
Yeah,
a lot of
so
it.
You'd think that would almost be the more, but I guess that's less iconic than to give him like the butcher knife, and it's one of those things where a character over time becomes iconic for certain things that maybe weren't supposed to be the focus originally. But he strangles from the back seat and she dead, and then he drags her body inside, which we thought was weird for like a cover-up, we thought originally. Like he's hiding it, as opposed to the remake where he's just like, oh, I'll leave this here. Or I'll spook this one up.
Mm-hmm.
So, Tommy kind of sees this.
He sees Jason from the window carrying the body inside.
Michael.
Sorry.
How dare you?
You've been talking about Jason Voorhees
Well, because they become so similar.
So, Tommy sees Michael.
Mike Myers.
Yes.
Doing some character acting outside the house.
Yes, and it's like, the boogeyman's outside, the boogeyman's outside, Lori, the boogeyman's outside.
Mike Myers is like, yeah, baby.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's scarier.
That's so much scarier. And so Lori, in the classic babysitter manner, is like, listen, I'm not gonna let the boogeyman get you. Not, the boogeyman isn't real, grow up, but like,
yeah,
I will not let the boogeyman get you.
Lori's other friend shows up with her boy, who I think we've met, it doesn't matter, glasses guy.
Yeah.
At the house where brunette lady who died is supposed to be.
Yes.
And they're like, oh, where's brunette lady? Oh, well, who cares? Let's fuck.
Mm-hmm.
And they just start boning down.
And he's in the house with them. Yeah, and he lets that happen.
Fucking in somebody else's house. He lets it it's very reminiscent of his sister.
Mm-hmm.
And so after they're boning down, Glass's boyfriend is like, oh, I'm gonna go get a beer. And I think Mike just strangles him. I think it's another one.
He does stab him.
That's right.
After he picks him up and strangles him, and then he stabs him.
And then he leaves him in the wall.
And leaves him in the wall.
Which was another murder from the sequel.
Yes.
Then he puts on a sheet ghost costume.
A la the sheet ghost from the sequel.
He loves him a sheet ghost.
Yep. And goes upstairs.
And which again, had eye holes cut out of it. So clearly he was like, I'm going to make this costume real good. Real spooky. And he puts, the glasses over the eye holes.
Yeah, so it looks like he's the boyfriend just doing a stupid Halloween thing.
And then just stands there while the girlfriend's like, haha, funny, now come fuck me again. Okay, be a weirdo. Okay, now you're extra weird. Oh, the phone's ringing, I'll go answer. And Mike's like, it's not okay to be on the phone.
And it's Lori on the other line. And
Myers
I
forgot about that. Yeah,
strangles her with the phone cord
while she makes sex noises as she's dying.
Yep.
And Lori's like, very funny. She thought she was just getting made fun of for being a virgin again.
Yeah, because that is a constant theme in this movie.
And so now we're up to 3 plus the mechanic at 4.
Yep.
Which that's the total, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that the end? Yeah. Which is
that's how many people actually die, but then
we're like halfway through and the dead... I kind of wish I didn't know the body count, because obviously I was keeping track, and then I got to that and I was like, I wonder if they don't count the mechanic. There has to be one more, right? And it's not a detriment to the movie.
Because it's 5, and we were like, but wait, who else dies? Because the sister probably doesn't count, because that wasn't part of the spree.
Yeah.
right?
But no,
that was
technically
the death count.
The deadening is donening.
Yeah.
And
I think she sees that something is wrong over at the house.
'Cause she definitely goes over there. She tells the kid, which I also think is when Mike decides that she can die, is when she leaves the kids. And she goes to the house. She's across the house, across the way from where all the murder happens. And it all happens in the same house, which I found interesting. For whatever reason, I thought that would be mentioned.
Is that all the murders happen in the same house?
He killed them all in that house, which the house wasn't particularly significant.
No, it wasn't. It was just where he decided to be that night.
Yeah. And she goes up to the bedroom and she finds this murder shrine, because the
missing headstone is at the top of the bed
with first girl's body
sprawled out.
Yeah, and then all the other bodies are set up so they kind of like
Rube Goldberg effect almost spook her.
As Laurie's freaking out.
And so Laurie's like, shit, these are 3 of my 4 best friends. Oh my god, they're all dead.
But it was also interesting that he's clearly was setting this up for Laurie to find, because he's like, you're my sister. Like, this is what's gonna happen. I don't know. I couldn't totally parse what he was doing, but it was definitely...
I think it was a weird, like, psychosexual thing with her, where, like,
Maybe.
he liked her.
Yeah, it was in a
but
bed. I think
also,
that means something.
Yeah, he also was reminded of his sister with her.
So he has to kill... that's a classic serial killer thing, that, like, this is your fault for making me...
do these
like,
things.
turned on to you. So you have to die. And yeah, so she runs out of the house. He follows her. She goes back to the house with the kids. She tells him to go upstairs, I think.
And lock themselves in this other room while she hides in the closet.
Yeah. Is she in the closet for this part? Because I think she...
Oh, no, that's right. She's on the couch and she stabs him with a knitting needle. I am so happy about... Oh, my God. I love Laurie so much as a character because I was so concerned in this movie that she was going to be like the meek virgin kind of trope, but she's so not. She has always had the fight back and survive instinct in her that you see in the sequel. And it's just that, like, over 40 years of training, she has gotten so much better at it in the sequel. But in the original, she still, like, has that intrinsic trait in her and uses whatever is in her surroundings to be able to actually defend herself.
Yeah.
Which at first it was, she was knitting earlier, and she uses the knitting needles and stabs at him, so he drops the knife, and she picks it up and gets him with it.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, good, we're safe. Like, he's dead. He's gone.
Yeah, which I think also, because obviously he's not.
He's never actually dead.
Well, I think this is what sparks that, like, Michael Myers can't die thing that he has now. Because he doesn't get hurt that much for, like, all things considered. And...
she does stab him a couple times really good, and he just keeps coming back.
Yeah, but she stabs him with a knitting needle and he drops. And I think it's not that he can't be killed, it's that he just plays possum whenever he gets hurt. He's like, I'm dead now.
Yeah.
And she's fine, and then he's gone. That's when she hides in the closet, I think. And he comes in, and that's when she gets him in the eye with the clothes hanger. Which
was genius.
Yeah, and which I love that he keeps his fucked up eye for the sequel. They do show, like,
they do show his eye is messed up, yeah.
And he drops again, and then she gets...
and she actually holds on to the knife this time, instead of just dropping it like she did the first time. She keeps the knife.
But as she's freaking out, he does the Undertaker sit-up. But again, I don't think he was, like, dying and coming back. I think he was, like, just, I got stabbed. I'm dead. Leave me alone. And then I think he was just fake. That's his plan, is to fake dead whenever he gets hurt, because he doesn't know what to do. Because
then they'll think they're safe.
Yeah. Well, that night, I don't think he knows how to deal with someone fighting back.
That's true. That's fair.
Because, that's true in this remake. He's afraid of Laurie.
He is.
Because Laurie fights back. I don't think he knows. If he's not the monster, he doesn't know what to do. So he just goes, I'm dead now. Go away.
Yep.
He possums.
And she does the exact same thing, which is amazing. So they are fighting in the bedroom, and Loomis shows up.
And Loomis does shoot him, and so that's the first time he gets, like, a
serious
devastating wound. Yeah.
And they're in one of the rooms, and there is this balcony.
Yeah, and Loomis unloads all 6 of his doctorate bullets. His doctorate university-issued bullets.
And Michael rolls off the roof and falls.
Yeah, a la Laurie later.
Laurie does that same exact move in the sequel, where she is fighting Michael and he throws her, and she rolls off the roof and falls, and then look away, look back.
Well,
at
first they do, because it's a little bigger, just because it's the end of the movie. So she's like, it really was the boogeyman, and Loomis is like, yeah, yes, I'm afraid it was. And that's when he looks and Michael's gone, and that's the end of the movie, which I guess sets it up for the sequel, which the second one is the same night. But I kind of like the idea that that's just the end. Yeah. Music starts, and that's it. He's still out there. Be afraid.
The boogeyman is out there. Don't be a terrible babysitter.
Although I'd like to know what happens, because clearly he's caught without killing anyone else in the 2018 one. So I guess instead of him sneakily and creepily being gone, he just made it 5 feet, and the cops were like, "Hey, you're under arrest." He's like, "Yeah, that's fine. Get me out of here. This lazy and this murder doctor are crazy."
Except he doesn't speak.
I know. That's the movie, man.
Yeah, honestly, it was slower than I expected it to be. Just because horror movies back in the 70s didn't rely so much on the, like,
it was a lot
constant tension release that
it was
horror
just
movies nowadays are.
like...
It was just, the entire movie was the build up to these murders.
Also, something that we forgot, she does try to leave the house. He's locked doors, he's locked windows, so she can't get out.
Yeah.
Which is what Laurie does to him
in the
remake
in the sequel, is that
she traps.
She jerry-rigs her house to be able to
him.
Trap him in it.
So
she has learned from him.
Yeah, she flips it in reverse. Well, she wants him to deal with what she had to deal with.
Yeah, she wants to be the monster, basically, and take down the boogeyman, which is so cool. It's so neat that, like, I love it.
I also
found
found
out,
love it. Because we talked about how we want the granddaughter, whose name I forget now. Allison to become the new Michael Myers. Apparently that happens in Rob Zombie's second. He remade the movies and then he made a sequel to it, and apparently at the end of that one there's a girl who becomes the murderer. She starts killing.
That's weird. We should watch those at some point in time.
Yeah, I watched the beginning of the first one because they do a good job with Michael at the Insanus or the Institute for a little bit, and he talks then, but Loomis talks to him and keeps trying to bring up that Halloween, and he keeps saying that wasn't me. And so it's interesting, but he also, they build up to the mask things because he likes to not be himself. He likes to wear masks, and then his mom still visits him, and Loomis still talks to him, and then they leave him alone with this nurse, and he stabs her too. And then that's when he stops talking because his mom stops visiting him, and even Loomis is like, "I can't help you anymore."
Wow.
So
that's interesting.
I know no one likes the Rob Zombie one. I liked that a little better to get a little the build to evil, not just the he's evil. This was a stab kid. Now he's a stab man.
Okay. Yeah, no, actually, we should definitely watch that one because I would be interested in seeing that and being able to compare them.
But that's all I watched of it. I had to go through something.
But no, getting into our autopsy, I think this movie did a really good job.
Well, I think we should bring up the corpse of 2018 and lay them side by side. To show those organs off, because I think one of the things I really wanted to talk about is how much bleed of this. The remake sequel happens 40 years later, but none of the other movies have happened. So this was one spree killing night, and then 40 years have gone by since anything has happened.
Yes.
I don't think the movie shows that. Like, for Laurie, fine. That was the worst night of her life and will impact her for forever.
Yes.
But everyone else treats Michael Myers like and he killed 4 people in a night. He's not great. He's clearly is a monster.
Right.
But not like the inhuman horror that, like, he's in that asylum 40 years later, like Hannibal Lecter chained to a block, like, that can't go past the line. And, like, it is deserved of a man who has 8 movies worth of killings and like 100-person body count, but not of a guy that killed people 40 years ago and now is a 60-year-old old man.
That's fair, because I think that the new movie does rely on the fact that we have had 40 years of media devoted to Michael Myers to sort of support the fact that he is this
I'm not
scary monster.
I love what the monster, like, they do a great job making it so creepy and making me so afraid of him, but I think that's based off of, again, like the 8 movie, 10, I don't know, however many movies there are.
However many
Murder Machine
there are.
And not just the first one in this one.
Yeah, no, that does make sense. At the same time, though, I personally feel like, coming from a small town myself, if a dude does these horrible things on 2 separate occasions on Halloween night, like, you're gonna talk about it, and he's gonna become your local bad guy.
No, I agree. And so
for sure.
It'd be fine with, like I said, I don't blame Laurie. I don't blame like the sheriff. No one else really seemed to care that much.
In the town, like, it makes sense that they would be like, oh, the boogeyman.
Well, no, the people in the town treat him like the realistic version, where they're like, yeah, he killed people 40 years ago. Who cares? That's it. He's not a monster.
The reporters, I think, are like...
Yeah, they're the one. They're like... Well, they're the us, I guess, of the movie.
They're the, like, murderinos.
Well, not just that, but, like, the viewer of the movie.
Yeah, and they're, like, really interested in seeing what's going on.
Although, you know what? I give them a little sympathy. Because we gave them shit for being like, this is the boogeyman. Aren't you treating him unfairly? Like, these murders happened forever ago. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of on their side now. Like, yeah, he did a bad thing, but he's not...
He's not an inhuman monster.
Which they're wrong. She's right. But I get their point of view now.
I definitely understand it. No, taking that into account, that definitely does make sense, because it does sort of give you that context that, like, hey, viewer, even though you have known for 40 years that this guy is an inhuman monster, because we keep telling you, for these people in this version of the world, he has only done these two things. He has murdered his sister, and then 15 years later he went on a killing spree, and the babysitter murders happened.
Yes.
So, yeah. No, that makes sense. I do still think that they were being assholes about being all judgy McJudgerson.
Yeah, to her,
Laurie.
to the woman that suffered through this. Yes,
that was what pissed me off.
I'm just saying, I kind of get. They're still assholes, but I get their
point of view.
Aren't you being a little dramatic about that? Which, you know.
Yes, I get that.
And I get the other, like, Loomis seems kind of out of hand too for being like, it's a monster, it's pure. Like, he was right. But he had no context for that.
It's true.
Being unfair.
And so the fact, even more so now that the new doctor is like, he is a man and I need to see how he operates. It makes sense.
Psychopathic about it, but
he's definitely psychopathic about it.
Entirely wrong.
No, I think that doctor had an unhealthy obsession with Michael Myers, and that's why he is the way he is. But that's okay. Unhealthy obsessions seem to be a thing in this movie franchise.
Yeah.
But no, taking it apart, I thought that it was really interesting the way that the original had the slow burn build-up. Mm-hmm. And it really gave you the opportunity to get to know each of the characters individually and to sort of establish a bond with them before they started to get hurt. Mm-hmm. Which is something that I think a lot of horror movies nowadays don't do, is they don't give you enough time to spend to connect to the victims, so you don't feel as bad when they die.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you are scared for the situation, but you are not scared for the character. You know what I mean? Where in this, even though I knew that Laurie was going to survive, I cared about her. She is someone that I empathized with and that I, like, saw aspects of myself in and was like, oh my God, I need to make sure that she is all right. The entire time.
I also think learning, because he didn't quite have the MO in the new one, and I think we were right that he just wanted to get some murders done. He's been pent up for 40 years. He's got to get out there and get to work. Mm-hmm. But we talk about how he doesn't kill that baby, and we had different theories. I think part of it is that he does. I don't think he ever tries to kill the kids.
No, he doesn't.
He leaves Tommy and the other girl alone.
And when he bumps into the kids on Halloween night in the sequel, he leaves them alone too.
He doesn't bother them.
He doesn't bother children.
He's there to kill sinful teenagers, and he has that obsession with Laurie because of the sister connection. The love / hate and now / fear, because she's the one he couldn't kill.
Right.
But yeah, I don't think.
But generally speaking,
because in his mind he's maybe still a child, so he's not there to kill kids. He's there to kill their irresponsible, which is a very Jason Voorhees thing.
To kill the irresponsible teenager and adult figures,
babysitters, or people like, obviously he's opportunity killer. Like, he needs clothes, he needs this, he needs he'll kill for that. But his MO, his like serial killer, whatever.
The thing that makes
that drives him, is to kill quote unquote sinful teenagers.
That's true.
Or the grown up versions of those sinful teenagers, because I think some of his murders clearly were driven for revenge for the original, like, Halloweening.
Yeah. Definitely.
But yeah, I don't think he had any interest in killing that kid. He probably thought... I don't know what that woman was doing. I'd have to watch the scene again, the one with the baby. I don't think she was doing anything, but maybe I'm wrong. Other lady was on the phone. Don't be on the phone around Michael Myers. That's irresponsible. He does not like that.
He does hate that. He hates people on the phone.
It's rude. Get off the screens. He would not like the Scream guys.
No? Because they're on the phone all the time?
They're like phone murder 24/7.
I kind of want to see Michael Myers versus Scream.
I love a versus movie. I know there's not a lot of them, and for whatever reason, people don't like them. I liked Freddy vs. Jason. I thought it was cool. I'd like to see a more human version of like the Scream guys versus someone human, because otherwise they would leave, I think.
The music was so important in this movie.
If we're gonna rag on things that we didn't like,
okay,
which there wasn't a lot. I liked this movie. Again, I have no nostalgia for this movie. I'm judging it off
based on just having seen it. I loved it too. I thought it was really good.
His strangle technique leaves something to be desired. I think it's just a product of the time.
That's fair.
Like, he does this cartoony, like, herky-jerky back and forth, like, you're being strangled for the stage, not the screen.
That's fair.
And
yeah.
It made me laugh. And this ain't like his little super jump in the beginning with the doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, like $6 million man sound effect was, a product of the time. But that's it. I can't think of another thing that I didn't really like about it.
Yeah, no, that's really basically it for me. Like, I thought everything just seemed to make sense within the context of the movie and the context of the time that the movie came out of. And I think that the filmmakers did a really good job with editing.
Yeah, well, it's John Carpenter, and John Carpenter's usually phenomenal. I'm a big fan of his work.
And the music was so amazing. Like, that tempo thing, like, that was throughout, that the music kept on changing tempo on you, and it threw me off every single time. And it just heightened that tension in those key moments, which was so beautiful and so good.
So if we pull up the coroner's report, and this obviously I think is going to be a little skewed because I don't know when IMDb stops. I don't know if this is only in theaters, and obviously I don't think this is adjusted for inflation. Maybe that's something we should look into when we start hitting the older movies.
It's true.
But the budget was $300,000 in 1978 money, so I guess it's probably a little more now. But you know what? It's because the return would be unadjusted as well.
Yeah.
But its gross USA was $47 million, and its cumulative worldwide gross was $70 million. So it was a hit. And again, I don't know a lot about its history, but I bet it was probably one of the biggest horror movies ever to...
Yeah, I know. My father has talked about it in terms of horror movies as one of the best. So,
also,
I was always terrified to watch it for so long because I had heard from so many people for so long, my entire life, that like, this is a good horror movie. Yeah. Like, this is the quintessential horror movie. So
also the sequel we found out is the highest grossing movie with a lead actress above 50.
Yeah, which is fucking awesome.
Yeah, and really interesting that it took a horror... I guess those are always like sci-fi. It's always a movie that's not treated,
quote unquote serious.
Yeah, that breaks some kind of mold and does a good job. And again, these are probably skewed because it's an old movie with a lot of nostalgia, but Rotten Tomatoes has it sitting at 95%.
Which is great.
Metacritic's at 81, IMDb's 7.8 out of 10, which is probably, I think, a more realistic... I love the movie. I don't think it was like a 95% out of 100% good.
No, it definitely was not a perfect movie.
But like an 80, 85.
But it was definitely an incredibly good movie, and I loved it.
All right, so that's Halloween.
That's Halloween.
A little discussion of new Halloween. So that's it for this evening's review.
Yeah.
We will be back at you in a week with
The Descent.
2005, I think, horror movie, The Decent.
The Descent. There's an S in there.
The Decent movie.
No, we haven't seen it yet. We don't know if it's decent.
That's true.
Or not.
Well, we won't talk about it if it's not, because at Positively Hard,
we only talk about movies we love. Just remember, there's a lot of weirdos out there.
So we're not alone.
Bye, guys.
Bye.